Hello enthusiasts, and welcome to this new video from the blog www.moonwatch.fr. So, today I am offering you a review of a watch that I have been waiting for a long time. For me, it was the grail from Breitling, namely the Breitling AVI 765. In this reissued version, last year, it was not possible to present this Breitling AVI 765 without talking a little about Breitling and the history of this watch. So first of all, everything starts in the 1950s. The watch Breitling AVI 765, nicknamed Copilot, is a flagship model of the Swiss brand, and it shares the spotlight with the Breitling Navi T-Mail. The Breitling AVI 765 features a bold design for its time with a bidirectional rotating bezel, a readable dial, and, of course, a chronograph. Today, the Swiss manufacturer Breitling offers a reissue with this reissue named AVI 765 1953. It is a watch that is faithful in every detail. To the first version, to the original version from the 1950s, highly coveted by fans of the brand Ozel. This Breitling 765, the reissue will simply allow enthusiasts of the brand to obtain a model that is really very, very close to the original model, which is hard to find on the grey market and for which the prices have soared in recent years. No major changes compared to the base model. We really remain on a very, very similar model, except that the water resistance has been increased to 30 meters, which for me is still insufficient. They could have at least honestly brought it to 10 ATM and another choice. Quite strangely, on the dial, we do not find the mention of Geneva under Breitling, whereas it was present on the original model. I was quite disappointed by the latest releases. Breitling, releases that have severed the strong connection with aviation, I find, and the only modern references that have appealed to me are the reissues, the reissue of the AOP, the reissue of the 765. Some super chronomats that have been released, which are not too bad, the new Datora, which is not too bad either, but otherwise, a lot of disappointment with Breitling. In any case, it must be acknowledged that with this lifetime model, Copilot, Breitling has succeeded in its gamble because the watch is really very, very beautiful. Moreover, Breitling offers this manually wound chronograph in a limited edition of 1953 pieces, the year the original model was released. And each watch bears the inscription one of 1953. You won't find a number, you'll find this mention. In any case, I am very, very happy to have this grail. Truly, for me, it's the grail from Breitling, even more than the Navi Timer, by the way. And I console myself for not having the original 1953 model with this watch that I find very, very beautiful. The technical specifications of this Breitling AVI 765 reissue, limited model to 1953 pieces. It's a watch that was announced in 2020, primarily a men's watch, but it could suit a woman as its dimensions are quite modest, with a diameter of 41 millimeters and a thickness of 40 meters. In terms of weight, it's quite light, barely 85 grams, so that's rather a good thing. This watch houses the new caliber Breitling B09 with manual winding. It also operates at 28,800 beats per hour and contains 34 joules. The power reserve of this caliber is 72 hours, which is an improvement over the historical model. The water resistance is rated at 30 meters. It features a bidirectional bezel. This bezel is very nice. It's different from what you find on other watches. We'll talk a little more about it later. A lug width of 22 millimeters. Originally, the watch was mounted on a calf leather strap with a signed Radion buckle. I will show it to you later. There is only one complication, the chronograph. So, first of all, the case of this Breitling 765 is made of steel and measures 41 mm in diameter and 14 mm in thickness. We are therefore looking at the same size as the original model, which already featured a fairly large size and a rather wide case for its time. Back then, watches were generally smaller, and at that time Breitling had already released the 41mm version, which is quite nice. The shape of the case is classic, well machined, with beautifully crafted bevels and horizontal satin finishing on the sides. It might not be easily visible on camera, but in any case the steel of the case is really of very high quality. Next, we find a bidirectional bezel with 12 clicks, 1 click per hour. That's quite original, I really like it. The bidirectional bezel is ultra precise, as there is absolutely no play, really no play at all. 12 clicks, excellent grip. It is also made of steel and integrates perfectly with the rest of the case. It is very similar once again to the 1950 model. We find a specific grip for this model and it's rather well done. It should be noted that it is a crown that is screwed in with mini screws. It is a bezel that is screwed in with mini screws. It is really very well integrated. It's very well done. Honestly, at the time when they released this model, it must have been a killer. By the way, I always hope to get my hands on one from those years. You never know. To continue with this case, we find a crown signed with the B of Breitling, which allows you to set the time and win the watch. This crown is not screwed down. The grip is excellent, as always with Breitling. However, I'm quite disappointed with the feel when winding the movement with the crown. We have no choice, there is no oscillating weight, it's not an automatic movement. So every morning you have to wind your watch. I am quite disappointed with the feel. I own ships, timers. Several Navy timers from Breitling from the 60s, 70s. And frankly here I don't feel the robustness that I can find on my 811 or on my 816 or on an 819. So it's quite disconcerting. Then there are two push buttons that allow you to activate the chronograph. The push buttons are quite firm, which is not a bad thing I think for this type of watch. Then we have a screwed case on which you can read the mention 1 of 1953, specific to the limited edition, the reference 765 AVI, and various formulas specific to Breitling certified chronometer manufactured in Switzerland, Breitling 765 AVI, etc. The dial of this Breitling Copilot is not left behind as it remains faithful to the original, with a few minor details, notably the mention of Geneva, which is no longer present under the B2PX. So the dial is really very, very close, almost identical to the original model. We find 3 subdials, 2 chronographs arranged at 3, 6, 9. To be honest, this dial makes me fall for it. I find it magnificent. It is ultra readable. It is very, very far from the models we know at Breitling that are very overloaded with a lot of information on the dial. Here we really have a model. I wouldn't say minimalist, but in any case, it is minimalist for Breitling. I even find it almost classy and chic. Then we find the indices in the form of numbers, which are covered with superluminescent material, which are covered with luminescent products. I'm not sure if it's superluminova. And they are painted directly on the dial, so there's that too. A very vintage side, plus they have been painted, just like the hands, in a vanilla color. And that reinforces this vintage aspect. I'm not a fan of fake patinas, because I don't see the point. Here on this model, it's the exception. I think it suits it perfectly. We also have a small white railroad track around the edge for the minutes, so that's rather interesting. The Breitling mention at 12 o'clock. Then, the hands, which are also coated with luminescent material, allow for reading the time. This shape of the hand is specific to the Breitling AVI 765. I don't know what these hands are called, but you can see they are quite slender, with a very, very fine tip, which really allows for precision in the watch. In any case, that's the effect it gives. Not very wide, its hands are still very readable. Honestly, I think it's a very beautiful harmony in the dial. Finally, to conclude, there is a domed ezolit glass that protects the dial and the hands. This choice is indeed wise on Breitling's part because it emphasizes the vintage aspect of the Breitling Copilot watch. They could have done like the Omega Speedmaster and switched to a Versafire. Not at all. Breitling decided to use a solid glass to stay a little closer to the original version. In any case, this reissue retains the DNA of the original model. The major evolution of this 765 reissue, compared to its ancestor, is the in-house caliber that Breitling has fitted. It is the Breitling Manufacture Movement B09. As one might expect from this hand-wound caliber, to get as close as possible to the original model, it has 34 joules and oscillates at 800 beats per hour. A power reserve of 70 hours, which is also more significant than the base version that housed Venus movements. The new Breitling Novitimer models also house this caliber. As is customary at Breitling, this in-house movement is COS certified and is remarkably precise. The chronograph pusher is quite firm but very pleasant to use. Moreover, owners of the Navitimer or Avenger Chrono will not feel out of place, as you get a similar sensation when using the chronograph. I do have a small disappointment. When I wind the movement, using the crown, I don't find it very pleasant on a setup. I don't feel the sense of solidity, of robustness as I can feel on my other watches. Vintage Breitling like the Breitling Navitimer 806. It's quite difficult to explain, but every morning when I put on the watch, I'm always afraid that the crown will detach from the watch. I don't know, the sensation is not reassuring. I find for this watch that sells for several thousand euros, in this case I much prefer the Venus calibers from the 50s, 60s, etc. rather than this new V9 caliber. Honestly, the interest if it's just a 70-hour power reserve is really minimal because it's a pleasure to wind it. You wind it every morning, and here I'm a bit deprived of that pleasure. Breitling offers this Breitling AVI 765 on a calf leather strap. So I love Breitling calf leather straps. I own several, and this one is too comfortable. Really nice. And the man on this one, I was a little disappointed. Not by the quality, but rather by the stitching. It's white stitching. I find it doesn't go at all with the watch. I'm not a fan at all. It's a shame. If it weren't for all the white edging on the Tour Blanc, I would find it all the white top stitching. There I would find it rather nice, but then I immediately removed it because I don't find it pretty at all. That's a lot of at all in all this, but well, it's not a big deal. Anyway, so I preferred to put it on a canvas strap. I think it slightly enhances the pilot aspect. I find it prettier than the provided strap, otherwise high quality leather. Still, after all, it's my taste. It doesn't match with my preferences. So, 22x8. On a signed buckle, simple Ardillon buckle. The inside is yellow, so that was rather nice. I liked it. And otherwise, the strap is made of black calf leather. The 22mm lug width, as I mentioned, allows for easy strap changes. This watch can be worn just as well on rubber, canvas or leather. Or on almost any type of strap. That said, on leather it adds 1 or 2mm of thickness. It's a watch that is already 14mm thick, so on the wrist I don't find it comfortable. What suits it best, I think, is the canvas, whether green or black. Both look really, really good. A small detail, Breitling provides this watch with an Ardillon buckle strap. I know that people generally prefer deployant clasps. I think it's smart of Breitling because it further enhances the vintage aspect of the watch. And moreover, it provides better support, I find, than deployant clasps, even though Breitling's deployant clasps are of excellent quality. For many years, Breitling has accustomed us to beautiful cases in elite back with a cardboard outer box in the brand's colors, yellow and black. The whole set was very elegant and highlighted our watches. Now, that time seems to be over, I feel. It's Breitling. And now, the watch packaging is basic, and honestly, I find it very, very, very disappointing. Even on the limited editions, there is no effort made on that side, and I find it horrible. Times have changed, and we must be more eco-consumer. Those are the trendy terms. Many brands boast about it. But I think ecology is a convenient excuse for some more than others. So, a big disappointment with the unboxing, because the 7.5 was delivered in a cardboard box. Very simple, blue, like that, only with the brand name printed on top. The inner box, brown. So, everything is simpler and just a travel case. And that, I'm sorry, is not acceptable. So, the travel case, it's very beautiful, in brown leather. Really. There you go. Very, very nice presentation. That's not the problem. The problem is that before, Breitling Hills provided a nice outer box, a bakelite box, inside which there was this travel display. Now, we only have the travel display, and I find that very, very, very disappointing. Why? Because we're dealing with watches that are more expensive than the watches from 10 years ago, which were better presented, better packaged. So I am very, very disappointed with Breitling in this regard. Even though I'm not questioning the quality, it's good, but Breitling justifies this. By cost savings, by ecology as well, less paper, less plastic, less of everything you can think of, I find it very, very disappointing. We're talking about a watch that costs more than 6,000 euros, 6,500 euros. And we have a poor cardboard box without a hard case. No, it's not acceptable here, Breitling. Big, big disappointment. Well, otherwise, inside, we also find the information. I'm not taking it out for you because I have my serial number, but the warranty card in digital format. So, again, big disappointment since Breitling has abandoned the digital warranty. Before, they provided an electronic card with information that appeared on a digital screen. The brand's fans loved that card. I, for one, found it really very stylish. It was different from what all the other Swiss brands were doing. Only Breitling offered that. And now we're left a poor digital card. Honestly, I'm really disappointed with the packaging. Well, then we find the watch manual, the fairly traditional things. But, well, you should know that at the catalog price, the watch costs 7,800 euros. This reissue of the 765, but you can find it for about 6,500 euros. New, it's not a problem. 6,500 euros, honestly, I expected a nicer packaging. Anyway, in any case, you can also acquire this 765. On the second-hand market, you can find it for a little less than 6,000 euros. I'm not sure that for this model, it's worth it. The deal to buy it second-hand, there are still a few new ones. Out of the 1953, you can still find it. New. So, if you're interested in this model, it's better to go for a new one because saving 400 bucks on a 6,500 euro purchase isn't necessarily worthwhile. Just one thing, be careful about customs fees. If you're bringing it from a country outside the European community, because with amounts like these, it can quickly skyrocket. No doubt that this Breitling 765 Avi is a faithful reissue of a model iconic to the Ozel brand. I'm not a fan of reissues. I hesitated for a long time before acquiring this chronograph. But this watch really has everything to appeal to fans of the brand. The aesthetics, very, very close to the original model, almost a one-to-one. The readability, which I find just excellent, day and night. As well as at night, the precision, it's a certified watch, COS. The manual winding, which for me is a big advantage. I love it, winding my watch every morning. I find it has much more charm than an automatic watch. It's true that today's trend is the trend of everything being automatic. And indeed, automatic watches have flooded the market. But I love this nostalgic vintage side, of a bygone era probably. Once the strap is changed, I find that this Avico Pilot is comfortable on the wrist, and it seems less bulky than other references from the brand. If you have Chrono Avengers, if you even have Navitimers, the Navitimer world, I find them much larger on the wrist, more imposing. Here we have a contained diameter of 41 millimeters with a thickness of 14 millimeters. Honestly, it fits really well. The dial is clean, and for a Breitling chronograph watch, that's quite rare. It's true that Breitling, every time they load the dials, well, there are fans and there are those who don't like it because of that. I find that here, as a result, the harmony of the dial is quite nice. It slightly reminds me of the Type 20, etc. From the 1950s, it's quite nice. A little disappointment, though, regarding the BO9 caliber, because when winding it, I don't find it charming. And it lacks the solidity effect of the Venus calibers that were in the 1950s model. But, well, you have to live with the times. I don't doubt the quality of this new caliber. Breitling manufacture. So I will take the time to live with the watch. So how long has it been? It's been 6-7 months since I've had the watch. I will take the time to live with it and see how this caliber evolves. For now, I wind the watch every day. And the crown hasn't come off in my hands, so maybe it's just a feeling because I'm used to other types of movements. To conclude, I had already mentioned this Breitling Avi watch in my top 5 Breitling. I made a video about it on my top 5 Breitling. I invite you to watch the video. You'll see it was my horological grail, and I must admit it deserves its first place. I am very, very happy to have been able to acquire this watch. It is more original than yet another Breitling Navy timer. It shares the same caliber, and in addition it is limited to 1953 pieces. Pure joy. It's a horological piece that you are unlikely to see on someone else's wrist. Unlike the Datos, etc., the Rolex Datos Nord, you go to certain places, almost every guy has one. With this Breitling Navi timer, it's going to be a bit rarer. The video is coming to an end. Remember to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. Very few of you are subscribed. Barely 60% of the people who watch our videos are subscribed to the channel, so subscribe to the channel. It helps us to offer you more content. It's completely free, so click the thumbs up, the subscribe button below. It allows us to offer you even more things. Otherwise, we are available on our website, www.moonwatch, where you will find our reviews, and also on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Moonwatch.fr. All together, and you will find us. With that, I'll see you soon, friends, for another video. Bye.